got 3 performers on tonight, 2 new to Monday night and 1 veteran. And we're going to be starting off the evening with My Double Life, written and performed by Roopa Mohan. She cut her chops as a storyteller, first at the Asian Art Museum, and she's done a lot of work telling personal stories and stories of South India. And we're glad to have her here on Monday night, and I'm going to hand her over to you. Take it away, Roopa.
Namaste, greetings. Today, I'd like to take you back to my childhood when I was growing up in South India, and I led a double life. Yes, 2 lives with 2 different cultures. You see, I was born into a traditional South Indian family. We practiced Hinduism as a religion and a way of life. But I also went to a Catholic school, a rather strict Catholic school in the heart of Madras, now known as Chennai. And turns out that my parents wanted me and my sister to attend this very prestigious Catholic school that was actually built by the Irish nuns. And they wanted us to get a well-rounded, good education with proficiency in English. This Catholic school was on a sprawling campus in the heart of Madras. It was called Sacred Heart Presentation Convent Church Park. In fact, the nuns that were running it when I joined in my 5th grade were Indians, but they had, taken on the reins from the Irish nuns. They were wearing the habit and the headgear, and they also wanted to make sure that they molded us into prim and proper, perfect young ladies. And it turns out that it was a long tradition of, the values coming in. But the interesting fact was that the majority of us in that school were not Catholics. We were Hindus, and some of us belonged to different faiths. And the nuns did not enforce religion on us. They just made sure that our religion and our traditions didn't really come into the gates of the school. And they made sure that we were being molded with the values that they believed in. Every morning we would gather in a big assembly hall and start off saying the Lord's Prayer. Then we would sing a few hymns, and often we would sing the school song which went like this. Under the standard of our school, glory, honor, reign, guiding our steps in the path of truth, teaching, play the game. And it went on listing the values and virtues we were supposed to inculcate. There was reference to firm, the cross, and faith, the crown we wear. And it ended on this note: stand brave, stand true, under the green and gold. Green and gold referred to our school colors. In fact, we had to wear green, well-starched casement uniforms, pinafores with many layers. And one layer that was particularly funny were the bloomers, the dark green bloomers from the 1800s, actually invented by Amelia Bloomer. And we were wearing this, It was bulky and cumbersome, but it was mandatory, so we had to wear them. And from head to toe, the nuns wanted to make sure we were prim and proper and well-groomed. Every hair in place. We had to either have 2 ponytails or 2 braids fastened with yellow ribbons, never one. We could wear actually this dot that I'm wearing, very important to the Hindus, but we couldn't wear flowers on our hair. No. And our legs, our poor feet, were enclosed in these brown covered shoes, often with nylon socks, which were more easily available. All this was totally not suited for the hot, sultry weather of Madras with no air conditioning in our school. But we went along because we had come from a tradition with the Hindu mantra always being repeated to us: Mata, Pita, Guru, Devam. Mother, father, teachers are all divine. And we, our parents, and, kind of went along with this. We also went along with it. But I would be so happy going back home, getting out of those hot clothes, getting into my loose Indian attire, walking barefoot, and even running up the stairs to my grandma's terrace, climbing those tiles and grabbing those mangoes that were hanging there. That was such joy. Well, back to my school, music was really, really very important. And we had this very famous pianist, well known all over Madras. His name was Handel Manuel. He came and played delightfully for us as we learnt all the famous in English and Western tunes. And I remember being cast in a production of Tulips from Amsterdam. And this was a small production, but the school took it very seriously. We had to get these perfect Dutch girl outfits with a bonnet and clogs, and we had to all sing this, clinging to the tulips that our teachers had very nicely made for us. Of course, tulips were not available in Chennai, and none of us had ever seen a tulip or, let alone go to Holland. But the sets were beautiful. And as we stood there singing, when in spring again we'll bring again tulips from Amsterdam, with a heart that's true we'll give to you tulips from Amsterdam. Now I look at the pictures and I wonder why we were not smiling or happy. There was no evidence of joy, the joy of springtime in Holland, despite the beautiful windmill that had been made as part of the backdrop. Well, it was a time that, was really interesting. But back in my Indian Hindu life, I got to dabble in a little bit of music, some dance, and South Indian music was very different. It was all about expressing ourselves and using our hands to keep the beat. We went sari gama pa pa gama pa da ni da pa ma gama garisa. And dance was also very expressive. I remember being cast as the mighty Indian god Shiva, who was the destructor as well as the recreator. Shiva was the ascetic, and I think I was tall and lanky at that time, so maybe they wanted to cast me as Shiva. And I had to wear like a fake tiger skin. I had to wear plastic cobra around my neck, and my hair was out like this. And I also had to wear the famous third eye of Shiva. They made a cardboard trident for me, Shiva's weapon of choice, and also a Nandi, a bull, Shiva's favorite vehicle. And I recall dancing to this Nandi Vahana Nagabhushana Nirupama Guna Sadana Natana Manohara Neela Kanta Shiva Nirajadala Nayana. It was so exhilarating and fun. But back to my school, we had to be very serious about things there. And, our teachers made sure that we got a fantastic grounding in all the subjects. And they were particular that we learned recitation, we learned, we learned all sorts of classics. In fact, there was Heidi and Black Beauty that I loved, and they took me to these distant lands with pastoral settings. It was so beautiful. But also we had to learn, Shakespeare and memorize like the Quality of Mercy, Portia's famous speech. And we had to also memorize the Charge of the Light Brigade. Lord Tennyson's great poem. And I still remember those three lines. There's not to make reply, there's not to reason why, there's but to do and die. And that kind of stood for, the discipline and the obedience they wanted, except we didn't go that far, of course. But actually, you know what? It turns out that it was a wonderful time, really magical, and we just went along with the flow. And I remember this one time that actually two things came in unconsciously from my tradition into the gates of our school. The first one was in my Hindi class. You see, though English was the medium of instruction, we were allowed to take a second language. And I picked Hindi, the national language of India. And our Hindi teacher was this lady wearing a sari and a bindi. She was quite traditional, and she wanted to make sure that we included a prayer to our own gods, her version of the Lord's Prayer. So every day at Hindi class, we started out with, Hey mere pyare Bhagwan, Karuna Sagar, Daya Nidan. Oh my beloved God, you are the ocean of mercy and kindness. And that made sense to all of us. It's a universal message, right? And the other way that my Indian tradition crept into the school walls was at lunchtime. Let me explain. Though we were on a beautiful campus, there was no cafeteria, nor did we even get good drinking water for many years. So we all had to carry our little lunch bags with water and our lunch. And it was not like a lightweight sandwich in a box. It was mostly an elaborate lunch that our dear mothers had cooked in the morning and lovingly packed for us. And this lunch came in a 3-tiered tiffin carrier. That was what it was called. This beautiful equipment which had 3 tiers and was, with a frame around it and a spoon going through it. So everything was kept in place. And I carried my lunchbox as well as my little sister's. I didn't mind. It was well worth it, because when the bell rang and we all went under our favorite tree to eat our lunch, it was really exciting. We didn't care that it was hot and balmy, and we could have easily gone to the lunchroom to eat. Nor did we care that occasionally a crow from up above would bless us with its droppings. But we sat there and we opened up our lunch boxes. The first tier would be filled with a vegetable. And if my mother had made a sautéed root vegetable, that was so exciting. Now, the second tier would have a concoction of rice and a South Indian soup, a thin one called rasam or a thicker one called sambar. And my mother would have added a dollop of clarified butter or ghee to it to make it really flavorful. The third tier would have the quintessential South Indian comfort food, Thair sadam or yogurt rice. Yes, yogurt rice with a piece of pickled mango or lime that would make it absolutely delicious and would hit the spot. We would just polish off that whole 3-course lunch in no time. And it's a miracle that we stayed awake for the rest of the afternoon. But classes were actually very, very serious, because we covered so many things, with the exception of biology, which was totally bypassed. But moral science was given a lot of importance for us non-Catholics. And I still don't remember what we really learned there. And also, the thing was that we were still learning about the history of our conquerors. Though it had been over 25 years since we got away from British rule and got our independence, we were still clinging on to their coattails for some reason. In fact, we learned about how the Mughals came from the north and invaded us and established themselves, and how the Portuguese and the British came by sea and they became strong and they reformed things in India. But It is not the fault of my school. The whole curriculum was kind of, messed up. We did not learn anything about our local wonderful history, especially that of, southern India, like the wonderful dynasties like the Cholas and the Cheras and the Pallavas, who were wonderful, great rulers and left behind a monumental legacy, which I love even now. But those were bypassed. And we even learned a year of American history, a whole year of American history by C.P. Hill. Well, we all believed in the mantra, of course, Mata Pita Guru Daivam. So we just went along with the flow. It was almost the end of my school years, and I got this great opportunity to perform in a school play. After many years, they had revived this tradition. It was a fundraiser, and they were going to launch Pride and Prejudice. And I casually auditioned for it and got the role of Jane Bennet because I was docile like her. I was told later. Not a great compliment, I think. But in any case, I got to play Jane Bennet. And the thing was, for a whole month, we were kept out of classes just to rehearse for this. That is how serious this was. And the drama teacher was very particular. We got things perfectly. I thought I had gotten my lines and I was all set when she summoned me and she said, Rupa, you need to watch. You have to walk like a model in order to play Jane Bennet. And I said, I don't remember reading that Jane Bennet had a great walk like a model. Well, I went along with it. The next few days, I had to balance books on my head and walk up and down the corridors of my school to improve my posture. It was humiliating, but I let it go. And the day of the play arrived, and we were taken to a nearby beauty parlor and had to get these big hairdos with a lot of spray and white makeup to make us all look like authentic British ladies, I suppose. Despite all this, it was a success, and my family was proud of me, and that's what mattered to me at that time. While it was almost ready to leave school and to, say goodbye to our wonderful school days, my grades had suffered a little bit because of that Pride and Prejudice, but I got into a good college, another Catholic institution, Stella Maris College, just down the road. This time, we didn't have to wear uniforms. And I noticed that the nuns there had transitioned into saris and they were opening their gates to more of the local culture and traditions. And I think that was a trend that started then all over the place. And I was happy that my rigid school experience, with all the exposure to Western culture and my Indian foundation and creativity, had somehow come together magically, and I could kind of soar and above my traditional and conservative city of Madras. And it's not a bad thing after all, is it? Leading a double life in two different worlds. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Rupa. That was wonderful. Wow, you 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 speak of this with such affection, these memories, but I'm watching this and you go, she is not giving the colonialists a break. She is letting them have it. All this affection, it is wonderful. You have these delightful images and memories with a little bit of an edge, more than a little bit of an edge, and you blend it so well. Thank you for that. And I hope you get a chance to check out the chat. There's been this wonderful discussion going on while you're performing, the points of it, and just people enjoying your work. So thank you. And we, for all of you in the audience, we will be doing a little Q&A with the performers. So we will have a chance to talk more about this, but we're going to move on. Thank you. Take a well-deserved break, and we're going to move on. Right now, we're going to move on. Our second piece, it's actually two short pieces from a Marsh veteran, a veteran of our Tell It on Tuesday series, which we do normally every third Tuesday of the month. And so Melissa Hobbs will be doing two short pieces, that Dirndl skirt and busted fuel pump in Minnesota. So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa. Take it away.
The summer between 5th and 6th grade, I was homesick for the gang of kids in my neighborhood. You see, the federal government was going to bulldoze part of our neighborhood and put in a freeway. Back in the 60s, GM had a slogan, "See the USA in your Chevrolet." And Route 76 was going to be an entrance for Chevrolets onto the freeway, right next to our house. My dad said, no. He bought some land 6 miles north and they built a house. But 6 miles for an 11-year-old is like forever. So I said goodbye to my friends. Now our new house had a huge blackberry patch on one side and a homeless couple on the other, rather a childless couple. And I heard a rumor that there was a girl my age down a steep embankment across the railroad tracks and through some muddy cattails. So when I got to her house, my shoes were muddy and red leakish on my shorts. And my mother didn't understand my puberty embarrassments and disasters. In fact, she was still wearing Dirndl skirts long after they went extinct in mail order catalogs. Dirndl skirt. It's like this. They were really popular in the 40s, and women loved them because it made their waist look thin and it came down below the knees. So you didn't have to wear a garter belt and nylons all the hot summer. When I was getting ready to graduate from 5th grade, my mom made me learn how to put that thing on. She came from behind me when I was standing, and she cinched it up, and then she pulled up my nylons, and between the little knob and the wire ring, she cinched it up. Trouble was, I was afraid when I was climbing up the steps to get my diploma that everybody could see my underpinnings as my skirt swished back and forth. So when I got there to my new house, I said, okay, I'm wearing khaki shorts all summer, and I'm not wearing any skirts unless I have to go to church, and it'll be knee socks. And I decided I'm going to read The Lord of the Rings with hero Frodo solving all the problems. So I'll have plenty of time to prepare for school in the fall with all new students. Missy, 50 cents if you go out with me and pick blackberries. I'm going to make a pie for dinner. But you know, my mom would come back from picking and her arms would be a mess of scratches. So I was going to go ahead and let her be the little red hen. She could pick those blackberries all she wanted, and I would have free pie for dinner. After all, she was mounding up blackberries, but I was mounding up something else beneath my blouse. There she is out picking, and she's wearing that Dirndl skirt. Yeah, she's narrow around the waist, but my mother was plump, and I inherited that tendency towards plumpness. She made me wear 4X, 6X, 8X dresses and shorts. I thought I was going to be chubby the rest of my life. And as I'm watching my mother out there, I see she's breaking her own rules. She always told me, Missy, you always wear socks with your shoes because you don't want to have any public odor. Socks will absorb it. But she's out there in her canvas shoes and no socks. And no hat either. Now in Northern Ohio, we have the deer flies. near, near, near. And when they hit your head, they're already drilling in to your scalp. My mother's rebellion I felt, and it made me want to scream. But I said, okay, I'm not letting her interrupt me. I'm going to read my book about Frodo. But then I hear a scream, and my mother's always under control. And I look out there, and she's frozen, and there's a swarm of wasps around her head, and they're crawling up underneath her dirndl skirt. That dirndl skirt. Mom, are you okay? I run outside. Missy, stay back. I stepped in a yellow jacket nest. But Mom, you're frozen. No, get back, she yells. Leave the sliding glass door open. So I run in, and here she comes running behind me, and she closes the door so hard the whole house shakes. And behind comes the swarm. They hit the glass, and they're down. Well, then she kind of pulls back on the chair. Missy, pull my skirt up. Get some tweezers and soapy water. Get them off of me. So I run and I get the tweezers, soapy water, because when you put the wasps in the soapy water, they drowned. And I lift up her dirndl skirt, and there are her white thighs. Can I say that about my mother? She is a late stage Victorian. But I've got to get those little buggers off of her. So I pull them with the tweezers. 35 welts I count. Oh. And I remember my mom has allergies. And I don't want her throat to swell up. So I run up and get her medicine out of her medicine chest. I give it to her. Then I take some towels and put them over her legs and pour water on them to keep her cool. She starts shivering. I get a blanket, I get pillows. She kind of falls asleep. And I sit in the rocking chair thinking, my mother is broken. She disobeyed her own rules, and look what was the consequences. And I realize I can solve this problem. I put on long pants, long socks, long shirt, a hat, and I go out and I do the job she started. I pick the blackberries that fell on the ground, having come around so that I was away from the wasps because they were still circling an hour later. And I pick up the blackberries she dropped and fill up the bowl and take it into the kitchen. And then I roll out the dough just like my mom taught me. Put in the blackberries, put on the lid, bake it. Get out the chicken and fry it and make the potatoes just like I know how to do, just like she taught me, because now it's survival. My mom has to survive, and so does my family. And I have dinner all ready for my brother, my dad, my mom, and me. I rescued my mother that day. And now we advance 15 years to 1980. And I'm with my was-been husband early in our marriage when I'm 7 months pregnant. But we're flat broke. And he says, oh yes, and we'll call him Bob. And he says, Melissa, maybe we could drive across country to your parents' house. And I could take my chainsaw and my tree climbing tools and we could find work out there. Well, okay, if we're going to do that, we have to stop at my brother's house in Minneapolis. Okay, let's do it then. And he goes and he buys a 17-year-old car, a 1963 Plymouth Chevrolet Impala, kind of like the one in my other story. See the USA in your Chevrolet. And so there we are, Sunday morning, driving through the wilds of western Minnesota, near some place called Bird Island. And I'm driving into the sunlight when the car starts to jerk and it dies on me. I had just enough momentum to turn it off the road into the side. I can get that going, Melissa. He tries, it won't start. We don't have any choice but to get out, and he puts out his thumb. It's Sunday morning. Who's going to stop? One car goes past, second car goes past, a third truck pulls up 1,000 feet, comes back around, and parks right in front of us. And two guys get out. One older man has a long dark braid all the way down here, and a younger man has long hair in a ponytail. And I realize they're Native Americans, American Indians, and they've come to help us. The one fellow, the older fellow, looks at my pregnancy and he says, "What seems to be your trouble?" "Our car died. We don't know what's wrong." The younger guy was kind of shy. He said, "Well, we were just on our way to the junkyard. We could pick up a part for you, but we don't know what's wrong." "Well, I'll look in your car and see." Well, they lift up the hood. They say, "Well, we don't know what's wrong, but we could tow your car back to our house and then take you to the junkyard." The older fellow says, "I can have my son do this. He'll fix your car." My husband and I look at each other. Are these guys angels? Or do they want to steal our 17-year-old car? So we say, "Okay, we'll do it." The young guy gets in the back of the truck. I get in the middle, and of course, I got the gear shift right between my legs and my pregnancy. They drive the car into their gravel driving lot. There's some small houses and a canopy of trees overhead. And the young guy opens the hood. He jumps in. It's a V8 engine, so I can only see the back of his legs. But within 5 minutes, he pulls out the fuel pump. "Your fuel pump is busted, but I believe they have some Impalas at the junkyard. Want to go with us?" And my husband, Bob, says, "Don't stay here. You come with me." So we get in the car again, his truck rather, and here we are. We get to the junkyard, and the proprietor says, "Yeah, we got some Impalas back in the very back. You know, Joe, where they are." So we follow him, zigging and zagging through all these junked cars, which I would have thought weren't worth anything. But for used parts, can't be beat. He pulls the right tool out of his pocket, and within a couple minutes, he's got a new fuel pump. We take it to the proprietor, and the guy says, "That'll be $7. Now, we've been crossing the country on a credit card, no cash, but I just happen to have about $7 in my wallet, so I pay him. We're back at the house, and I'm sitting on a log, and I whisper to my husband, "What are we going to pay them? Did you ask him what they were going to charge?" "Well, yeah, I asked him, but he just shrugged his shoulders." "Well, you should ask him again. We're going to have to owe him something." Then the door slams from the house, and a young lady comes out. "Hello, my name is Winona." She's looking at my pregnancy, I'm sure. "Would you like to come in and have some lunch while you're waiting?" "Oh, I would be so delighted." So I follow her in, and there's a kitchen table, very long with oilcloth and place settings. There's a bunch of children there, and I sit at the end, and she begins to serve us ham, lima beans, and corn. Only I'm a vegetarian. But I turn it over to God, and I say, "I'm 7 months pregnant. I'll take it and enjoy it." So we have our food, and then those men come in, Carl, Joe, and Bob, my husband. They're eating, and Joe says, "Yeah, we got it fixed. We timed your fuel pump with a timing chain, 10 degrees off, top dead center. We just have to take it for a test spin." So they get ready to do a test spin after lunch, and Bob, by this time, is trusting them, and he says, "You can stay there, Melissa. I'll go out." So they come around and they're back. And I say to Bob again, "Well, what are you going to pay them?" I asked him again, and he didn't ask for any money. But Bob decides He'll make the big sacrifice, and he says to the young man, well, I've got a $300 Husqvarna chainsaw. That's how much it was worth new, and I've got the chainsaw fuel. Would you like to take that in exchange for the work? Oh, if that's what you like, yes. So they make the exchange. We get in the car, and then the father, Carl, comes over to my side of the door. I wind the window down, and he says, you know, I let my son put in the fuel pump, and this was his first time to do it on his own. If you don't get it right, it ruins the whole engine. But he got it right on your car. Oh, very good. So within 2 hours, we were busted flat on a street, who knows where in Minnesota. We got picked up by these fellows. We learned to trust them. They got us the part from the junkyard. They fed us lunch, and we were on our way. And we learned that that goodwill they established was much worth more than that chainsaw. They were angels. I still remember that 40 years ago.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And again, with your performance, some neat remarks in the chat. I like someone had noted how your piece and Rupa's were looking at characters who are sort of trying to navigate a sense of place amidst rules and culture, which is really neat, and your sense of time and sense of place and the the drama of these kind of ordinary happenings was delightful. So thank you. Again, we'll leave more for the audience during Q&A. So take a well-deserved break, and we're going to move on to our final performer. Nekia Wright is another first-time Monday Night Marsh performer. And she is an educator, a sound healing facilitator, and an app developer, truly a woman of many talents. And from working with Soundcheck with her, I'm really looking forward to this, this mix of media that she's working with. She has experience as someone who helps people heal through sound and art, and I'd love to hear more about that after the show. And I really don't want to say much more because I'd like to let her and her art speak for themselves. So Nekia, I'm going to hand it over to you.
You made it. I'm so happy to have you back. I've missed you. I got so much to share. I have so much I want to tell you while you were gone. This has been amazing. So, first of all, well, you remember those letters that you sent me while you were locked up? And I remember you told me you'd been sending all these letters, and the last time I had remembered seeing you, before I graduated high school was when I was 5, and I remember it so clearly. And even though you knew that you were going to be gone for a long time, I could see that you were in pain, but you brought so much joy to the moments of that goodbye for now. And I always thought about you, and I always would bring you up at the beginning, but I was told by my dad and his family that you didn't care about me, that you didn't love me, that you weren't a good person, and I was better off with them. And I got so kind of just caught up in that, and I would always think about you, and I was never angry, and I I knew enough about them to know that that wasn't the whole truth. But I didn't. It took a long time for me to see the full truth, the part that they had in you not being in my life. And I still never got those letters. I asked, and they were never given to me. And I think about them. I think about them all the time. And just how you were feeling, and the idea that you never got a response. And I was thinking about you too. Anyways. My grandparents, they're at the end of their, their journey on this plane, and I still think every day that, one of them will just do the right thing. I pray that somewhere in that house, there's a box of letters, and that one day I'll be able to just connect with you in a way that, a mother and a daughter are supposed to connect. But I gotta tell you something. I think the universe might be against us being together, because I had another experience, and it was so painful that I was just I couldn't even process it. You sent me letters when you were released, and I was in foster care at that time. I don't even know how you found me. I don't know how we found each other. But I kept those letters, those first letters that I received when you were first released. And they were thrown away. I can't even, it's crazy. It's one of those things where all my life I'd always thought that integration, not integration into an oppressive system, but integration and a united effort to change the system so that we can all be served. And I put myself in a lot of situations where I was the minority. And I had opportunities to connect with community and to connect with family, but I just saw these people with all these resources, and I had to figure out a way, like, is there any way that we can coexist without either party being harmed? And I really thought that there was a way. I thought there was a possibility. And I put myself in a lot of vulnerable situations with many people who had way more privilege than me. And I didn't get anything out of it. They got so much. And I've gotten so little. And on top of that, one of these people who's actually someone who travels around the world as a white person teaching other people how to be allies, she threw away your letters. And there was no excuse. I had been traveling, and I didn't have anywhere to keep my most precious belongings. And I just asked them to hold them in their house. Could I just store them in their home for just until I could figure things out while I went to Guatemala. And I just had them just let me know that I can just have a safe place in their house. They were in $1 million house. It was $1 million house. They had my age. Their parents bought it for them. That's the life that they have. A huge basement that's larger than my room. And I knew it was a gamble, but I thought, what could go wrong? Most of my friends and family, they don't have a steady place to live. I don't know how long. I just don't know how long I'm going to be gone. And I need to know that, you know, if an eviction happens or, you know, just to leave them with someone stable. And I communicated with them. They had my contact information. They just threw it away without notifying me, just discarded the last memories that I had of you. And I was so angry. I was furious. My heart ached in a way that I could not, the pain just wouldn't go away. My whole shoulder locked up. I've had like a chronic illness for the first time in my life, and it's from this grief of losing you over and over and over again because people keep making bad decisions. And I don't know if your power is just so magnificent that the powers that be just could not allow us more time together. And it took me 2 years to process it, just process it enough so that I could just confront them about it. And I did. On Juneteenth, I used the power of our ancestors, the power of those who fought for our rights to live and to thrive here in this place that we didn't ask to be in. And I emailed them and I told them how I felt. And I got an email back that said, you know, I'm sorry and I'll never do that again. And it was the first time I refused to accept a sorry. That apology was not enough. Not that, I don't know what culture I come from, because people like that person have stolen it from us. Our entire time here has been sorry. What can I do with a sorry? And I told them that. And I told them that if they were upfront about the people who they were, I would never have left such precious things with them. But they created a situation that made me believe that they were working to be better white people, that they were allies. They're traveling, getting paid to teach people how to be allies. And I believed them. And I told them that your sorry is not enough. I told them that if they really wanted to try and attempt to repair an unrepairable damage, if they wanted to attempt to try to make something right that is impossible now, they can never give me back those memories. I can never hold those letters. I can never hold those pictures. The only thing they could do was to donate to the business that I started to help you. Because when I saw how hard you were working to try to integrate into a society that had robbed you of most of your life and was still so unjust. And I thought, I don't ever want my mom or anyone else in my family to have to put up with oppression to get the things that they need. Because I know what that's like, and no one deserves that. So I created a business around healing and around music and culture. I created something that people who were recovering or transitioning could use to heal themselves first and then develop a career out of it if that was something that they wanted. And I've had the opportunity to serve so many people with these sounds and this music. But I created it to serve you. And I'm so sorry that I couldn't get it together in time. But back to the story. So I told them that they should take their memories, their connection with their mom, their connection with their families, all of their most precious memories and heirlooms, and think about that and turn it into a number. How much is that worth to you? That's what I told them. Then I said, donate that amount to my business. And I had no idea what was gonna happen, but I felt like from that point, it was on them. I had done what I could do, and the pain in my heart and in my soul was so extraordinarily just out of control. My whole heart and left side just ached with pain. And it was all I could do was just to speak and say what I needed. Well, something crazy happened. Magical. Maybe it was our ancestors. Well, but I sent that email on a Saturday, and I didn't hear a response. On Monday, I received an email that was in response to something I emailed an old supervisor who now has an education company, an online education company, and I'm developing my own. So I emailed him and I was like, hey, you've had your company for 10 years. Can I catch up with you? Here's what I'm working on. And I didn't hear back from him for like weeks until that Monday. And he wanted to meet on Wednesday. So we met. And you know, DC is a small community. It's a little town compared to some cities. And one of the people involved in destroying the last of my memories of you works for my former supervisor. He is the CEO of that organization. So I didn't go into it because I am a professional, but I dropped a name, all in context. I just mentioned that I didn't know he had a company and had left the school system until this person told me that they were applying to work for him. Well, that person still works there. And less than an hour after I got off the phone with my former supervisor, that couple emailed me back. and they donated $2,000 to my business. There is no amount of money that can bring you back or bring back those memories or heal these wounds that have accumulated over hundreds of years. But reparations healed my heart. It healed my shoulder. I felt empowered. And I have more resources to put towards creating a business that's actually going to serve people instead of the other way around. They asked if I wanted to hear their side of the story. I said no. In my mind, I think that's what therapy is for. But the healing that came from these people repairing the situation using the resources that they have has allowed me a deeper and more authentic and grounded way to heal.
Thank you, Nekia. Wow. Gosh, I was just so taken with the way this piece is navigating absence and absence and scarcity, and sort of visually how symbolic those bowls are. They empty bowls which fill the room with sound. You, as you are dealing with this absence, this emptiness, and everything that comes out of that. And I don't know how much of that is intentional. There's so much that happens with sound that I think is it just infuses such fascinating metaphors with the work. And again, there was some interesting discussion about your piece in the chat, and I hope you can take a look at that. So I think what I would like to do is open up for questions from the audience. If you have questions and you want to throw it into the chat for any of our performers, please do. I'll keep an eye on the chat. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a look at our YouTube live stream, and because we have some people watching there. If you're watching on YouTube Live and you'd like to type a question in there, I'll be watching both streams. Since we have you here, I'll wait. If anyone comes up with a question from the audience, I'll run to there. But Nekia, could you tell us a little bit about your process of creating a piece like this? You're working with so much, with text, with image, with sound. Do you start from one particular place, or do they all kind of come together at the same time?
Well, I started from the bowls. Can you hear me okay? I just switched my.
Yeah.
So I started with the bowls because that's what I do is the sound healing. And so I've been offering sound healings on like Facebook Live weekly and just building my skills around because that's a whole nother just trying to translate this into an online medium. And so that's where it came from. What was just bringing that healing vibe into the storytelling, especially since my stories are just, I mean, I wish I had happier stories to tell, you know? It's not my fault. However, you know, to give people an opportunity to process it with some of the healing that I've actually used to help me process, you know? So how to combine that along with my mom. And so that was just a conversation with my mom. I hadn't rehearsed it. I have a lot going on right now. I just built an app and I got 2 job interviews tomorrow. So as much as I would like to say I had specifically rehearsed that piece, that was the first time it ever came out of my mouth. And it was just, so it was coming from a very authentic place of me talking to my mom.
And that's part of what we're here for with Monday nights, is to give this work a place to breathe, a place to stretch. Now, with our other performers, and because Nekia, you just mentioned the challenge of working in this medium, in this online medium. Melissa, I'm going to direct this at you. You have done Tell It on Tuesdays, on stage, you know, live storytelling. You had to adapt to this Zoom medium. How was that for you?
You know, in some ways it's more intimate because we're so close. Everything on our face becomes the stage and then the space around our face. So you have to adapt to that. But in other ways, it's so remote because we don't get the reactions from other people as quickly.
Yeah, it's challenging. And Rupa, same question, because you've worked live.
Yeah.
And how was this?
I really like this. This has helped me a lot, actually, because I'm a relatively new storyteller. You know, I was trained just a couple years ago at the museum, and we do, you know, children's stories for school groups. It's very different. So this has somehow given me an opportunity to take it to a larger scale stage. And it's a little less intimidating. I don't see, like, you know, hundreds of faces in front of me. So I really appreciate what, you know, this virtual storytelling has brought to me.
Great, great. I'd like to actually allow all three of you. Also, I'm gonna circle back around to you, Nekia. Um, but same question for all of you. If you have any upcoming performances or coming up, or ways that we can experience your work, please give yourselves a little plug. Nekia, I noticed you had put the URL to your website in the chat. I would invite you to do that again.
Okay.
Any other work you'd care to mention? Any performances coming up or anything you'd like to plug?
Well, the main thing is this app I've been working on, and so I mean, my life is just around healing and connecting people with tools around healing, and I'm also a special education teacher. So so most of my art comes through the processing of and just a part of like my healing process, and every second Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So every second Sunday, 7 p.m., I have a Power to the People sound meditation. And so that's a guided and then a sound meditation. And then you can find links to the apps I've been working on, some for schools, just to help schools, and as well as individuals who want to learn about sound healing. I even made one that has all the medicinal plants that have been tested and proven to fight novel viruses. So it's about a list of 100 plants, all used in traditional medicine already, and there was a clinical study done. So,
Nice.
so yeah, I just, you know, any of those ways you want to connect.
All right, but if we want to experience some of your sound meditation, we can find the link on your website. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, fantastic. Melissa, any upcoming work? Are you continuing work with StageBridge?
Yes, I am. And I had a bunch of gigs doing a story about women's suffrage because this is the 100-year anniversary of women
Yes.
getting the right to vote. But, you know, they were all canceled. So I'm going to be making a PowerPoint presentation, and I hope to have it recorded with the San Francisco Library. So
Nice.
people can check there because this is the 100-year anniversary. This is a big one.
Yes, yes. That sounds fantastic. And what about you, Rupa? Anything coming up?
I'm a purely volunteer storyteller, and so I can't wait to get back to the Asian Art Museum and do my storytelling there. And we're going to be doing some things virtually now, so that will be exciting to see how we can bring these stories to the schools. And I also am, collaborating with a group called Asians in Unity, and we're going to be coming up with a YouTube channel for kids. And I'm very excited about that. It'll, and I'll keep you posted once that's
Awesome.
up and running.
Awesome. Thank you. For the audience and for a performance as well, as I said, this is on YouTube Live, and this performance will be available for viewing on our YouTube channel. So if you have friends who would be interested, send them our way as I said, we're doing all kinds of streaming programming. Melissa, you mentioned the centennial of the 19th Amendment. Our weekend show last Saturday, 50,000 Mice, was in honor of that centennial. It's a story of one of California's suffragettes who's working really on behalf of women of color in this fight. And it's a fascinating story, and that's on our YouTube channel. As you know, with theaters being kind of shut down, we're not selling tickets. We're doing all this free of charge. But if you can support us through our tip jar, Brianna, our production manager here, just put up a link in the chat. It's on our website. Thank you all for coming. If you have stories to tell yourself, send us a proposal. Monday night at themarsh.org. We'd love to hear from you. This has been delightful. Thank you so much, Rupa, Melissa, and Nekia. It's been wonderful to have you all. I'm just vibrating with happiness over this. So thank you all so much. Everyone have a great evening.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Melissa and Rupa.
Thank you. You too.